Yeah, we're ready. It's better to step in front of the door. It's better so you can get the shot while you're just walking. Like this, you close to it. Somebody go get it. Come to the rest. So this is question and then doctor. Okay. Okay. We're going to phone on FaceTime. Your brother's a friend. Who is that? Yeah, and then Ralph always calls you Ralph, right? You understand? Right. I'm sorry. Thank you. Okay. We'll go to the right. But I want to let's follow. Okay, tell them what you want to do. Let's go to the restaurant. Let's see the people come and sit down.
Hey, John, Kendra G from America. Radio wasn't big to you. I can see that.
How did you? Yeah, talk to her. Talk to her. Inside and then we walk through this place and go and sit down. Yeah.
To spot the potential that Africa had, not only in resources and business, like we're seeing him do with Akon Live, but also in music. He was one of the very first to pay attention to most of our African, stars and giants, from Sarkodie to P Square in Nigeria. So make some noise for him on that note as well. Like you got notice of, he's got a couple announcements to make. We're very, very excited to have him. To his left is CEO of the EIB Network. Some noise for Mr. Bola Ray. And we also have Babs, who's right as well, who's no stranger to the African music business and his contributions to it. We're going to kick off. Mr. Akon, Mr. Bolare, Babs, over to you guys. You're welcome. You start off with Akon. All right.
Well, thank you very much, Antoine. And please, a round of applause for your good selves. I think that you guys have been great. Thanks so much for taking time off to be here with us this morning. And clearly, like Antoine said, there's going to be a big announcement. We're here to take Africa to the world. Akon has already done that, and we're pushing the ball. So this morning is just to celebrate him, and also with his new album coming up, we're going to have the pleasure of listening to some great songs, new songs by Akon. So it's exclusive to all of you here, and we're actually going to ensure that it's going to be a picture opportunity. He's going to talk about his live campaign and all of that. So without much ado, I would like to say big thank you for coming, and also to the EIB Network. This is it. It's a huge statement that we're ready for the world. We're going global, and we're positioning ourselves. I can see my team here. Thank you very much, guys, from Star and Live FM, to John, Jimin, Ace Broadcaster. Thanks so much for a great location. So I'd like to hand over to the man himself. He brought us Konvict, and clearly he's taking Africa to the world. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Akon.
Good afternoon, everyone. How you doing? Nice. So, yeah, that's what's up. It feels good to be back, man. I think now paying a lot more attention to Africa, which is amazing for us, because I always felt like the unity between Africans and African Americans is going to be the key for Africa's people to be free. I don't think sometimes, even in the U.S., how important the connection to their root is, and they oftentimes don't believe it or feel it until they come here. Because all the new visitors that's here now are super excited and wish they could have came a lot earlier, and was like, man, I didn't realize Africa was like this. So it's always a good feeling when they come and give great praises to Africa, and they also recognize the powers that Africa has in themselves, because oftentimes as an African American, when you're in the U.S., you don't know what you're missing. You feel like there's something missing. I don't know what it is, but it just feels like it's something in my life that's just not complete. And when they come to Africa, they find that missing puzzle because it's more of a spiritual thing than it is physical. So it's often great times to be a part of just an acknowledgement of what their history is and being able to welcome them back to that history. So they've been taking a lot of, tours throughout the city. They went to the slavery marks and everything like that. And they're really getting a gist of, the beginning of how they even made it to the U.S. in the first place. So, oftentimes when they come, they have these crazy myths that U.S. history teaches African Americans about Black history, and they really don't know, until they come and realize it's nothing like how they was taught it to be. So it's always a great thing, man. The hospitality here, these guys are having such a great time. They can't stop eating the food here. They don't know why they love jollof rice so much. They're like, man, this rice is good. God damn. But it's just amazing, man, to see that. And I think every year is only going to get bigger, and it's going to get to the point where they're just going to want to relocate and just be here forever. Because often, as you know, here the troubles they're dealing with back in the U.S., they don't have to deal with it here. So if all their money, resources, talents, knowledge was all invested back home in Africa, we could rebuild this country in no time. So it's really going to be a collaboration between the two worlds to make that work. But ultimately, man, just want to thank you guys for the amazing welcome that you guys always give me, the support, also that you give me worldwide to allow me to do what I do. And just know I'm always here working for you, man. So thank you guys for everything.
We've been working on this almost, since 2008. Before even people recognized what Afrobeats and Ghana High Life was. We started with Sarkodie and Wizkid, B-Square, the bunch, all these people. And today we thank God that at least all the youth and the new generation, we got producers and writers, they working, making money, feeding their own family. For me, this is the reason why even me and Akon came together to do this, because we both Africans. So I'm happy that everyone is coming here and we sitting here today. And that's it. Boom.
Yeah. Please, a round of applause for Babs. And he's the main connect, making things happen. So clearly we'll be getting to the Q&A. We'll defer to our MC, Antoine.
Yeah.
But clearly we want Akon to also touch on some of his social projects. I believe that he's driving great initiatives across Africa, not just music. So a lot that he's working on as well. And his new album is called Connect for 2020. We're going to have an exclusive listening session, like I said. But we'll be getting to you all your questions for Akon. There was a video that went viral about a month ago. You inviting people to come invest in Africa, particularly Ghana and all of that. We'll get to know from you why such a call. Maybe I'll start off with my question and then I'll defer to Antoine to just get to the audience. So why that? Because it was a great video, 6 minutes, and you touched the salient points, Akon.
Yeah, no, I think it's important to continue to highlight the possibilities here in Africa, and all the good opportunities. I don't want them to miss it, because easily if they miss it, the others are going to come and take over. It's been happening for centuries. So my goal is to be the bullhorn and make sure that the voice is loud enough for them to hear that, listen, Africa's perfect time to invest now. Where the rest of the world is fully developed and there's nothing else to do anywhere else. They're all coming to Africa now. So we want to be here first, and we want to be already set, stamped, and ready to go. So when they come to invest, they are investing with us. It's not where they have to do side deals with the government and do things like this. We want to be already in conversation with government to get land, build, high-rise buildings, create opportunities for corporations to come and allow it to be their base and things of that nature. Entrepreneurs can get already in a position to where they have a business already moving. So when people come to invest, you have services that can apply to those people. So the idea is just to start now. Whatever, I don't care how small you think the idea is, I guarantee you within the next 10 years, that idea is going to be a multi-million-dollar idea because everybody's going to be here for it.
Wonderful.
And we're kind of developing from where we left off. There's a lot. We was in 23 countries at the moment, so now we're just focusing on the countries that have the most challenges, to get more things to expand in those areas. But we also now are in America. So we started Akon Lighting America, which is not a lighting project per se, but it's an energy project where we're transforming the traditional way of using energy to renewable energy. So now we're doing a lot of solar in all the areas in the U.S. Before solar wasn't really popular in the U.S. as well because it was very expensive. but now everyone's trying to go into renewable energy because of the COP22 and the climate change. So we're being a company that they can assist to be able to transfer the traditional way of how to produce energy and make it more clean. So that's where we come in. So far, as we expand it only makes it bigger for us now to come back in Africa and utilize those same tactics for the continent as well.
Wonderful. Future of money, cryptocurrency. You also dip into that a little bit.
Right.
Can you tell us about that as well?
Yeah, so crypto, the Akon is really the African coin. The whole idea for that is to where people can actually control the money. And as you know, because of a lot of how the money is controlled today, there's a lot of inflation, and more than anything, the money just not balanced. It constantly go up, it constantly go down, we don't have a stable dollar. And then for the countries that have an okay stable dollar, or as stabler as the natural, majority of those money is the country don't own. It's body of French franc or something like that, that we don't control, that we don't print here, that we don't even have a say on as to how the value goes up or down. And the idea is to create a currency that we can trust ourselves, a currency that we distribute, and a currency that we can translate and utilize. So the Akon is really more for our generation, saying old, out with the old and in with the new. Something that we literally can control, and it's under the blockchain, so there can be no corruption, there can be no stealing. You know exactly where that money is going from the moment you spend it to the moment someone else picks it up, deposit it, and move it. So you better follow the trace of every single dollar. And I think that's going to be the key, because that's going to stop all the dishonest transactions and trading that's happening in the country now that's allowing it not to grow.
Thank you very much.
Just being here and realizing this is why we're so creative. This is why we're so dope, because it's in our roots. Right. And one thing you said that I really loved is that we get everybody in America that is popping, that's popular, that makes all this money and bring it back to Africa. But how can we really do that, Akon? How do we really get all the talented black folks in America to return home and make Africa what it should be?
Well, it starts with a visit, because
That's
normally
true.
with creative people, when you come into an environment, you just naturally get creative. You find where you fit in. You just know where you fit in. Some people, everyone's going to come with a different trade, a different talent, and a different idea, right? And the visit starts everything, because once you're here, then you just naturally just fit in where you fit in. You don't even choose. You just know exactly where you fit. And it's just a matter of time spending out here. You start to understand, learn the culture, understand the people, and be more engulfed in the day-to-day things that's happening. And then eventually you just kind of blend right in.
Can I Airbnb your place in the meantime until I get? Because I know you're not here every day, so can I stay at your? I know you're not gonna be here all the time. On the weekends, you can give me a discount to Airbnb.
I'm Airbnb now.
You represent the country so well. Thank you so much for exposing us all.
We want to make money off artists. We created it to give them a platform to be internationally known and to be more exposed, so they can come back and do the same thing and help other artists. So Konvict Africa started off more as a philanthropic label, a label that, we gave them small advances, we gave them the whole platform, gave them freedom, we marketed them, we promoted them, and we also created celebrities and other artists to be able to collaborate with different, depending on whatever they want us to do, we gave them the platform to pretty much do it. But it was never one of those type of deals where you lock them in and then they sign to you forever. We wanted them to be able to be their own entrepreneurs. Our goal was to give them the platform that every major artist in the US had, so that way they can apply to their talent and give the same, pretty much be treated fairly. Because the one thing about Africa is that we never really had an infrastructure, especially when it comes to music distribution, music publishing, things of that nature. Africa never really, created that. So we were the only company literally in Africa that actually had that format. And what we did, we just gave them the platform to do what they do. And then we gave them also our connections, our ties, and we made certain moves so they can get ahead of a majority of artists that wasn't with us. So it was a choice. You can sign with us, we take you where you need to go, and then we keep a relationship forever. Or you can continue doing it yourself and just take longer. So, that's really what it boiled down to, because when we sign artists, we don't do it expecting anything back in return. There's nothing they can give me that I don't already have. All I can do is give them the opportunity and give them the platform that every major artist has, and just hope they give that to someone else or someone other that they, because the whole idea is, one hand washes the other, both hand washes the face.
Is this like that?
I'm sorry?
Is this still like that? You are still open for people?
Still like this. I've been doing this forever. If you notice, you'd be surprised how many artists right now that we're helping that we don't mention it because we want them to get the credit for doing it. Because at the end of the day, it takes hard work to get there. And the last thing is, if we sign an artist, we don't want them to make it on the strength of me signing them. So that's why we don't announce it no more. Back then we would announce it, Konvict Music, new artists. But it makes it harder for the artist because now when the artist comes out or he tries to push records out, the same people that would support him before we signed him don't no longer support them without wanting money. Because now it's like, oh, now you signed Akon, you can pay. No, we're just giving you the platform to go. You still need to support him because without your support, he's not going to go anywhere. All we can do is be the bullhorn and let everyone know, but more than anything, give you the platform that every other artist have. So that way you're on iTunes, you're on Google, you're on Amazon, you're on Beats. Wherever music is being played, we need to make sure your music is there. And that's what we was there for, to make sure that you was spread everywhere where every music is at. Right on the first trip. God is a lot more easier to deal with. It's cool, it's calm. And they also, know the culture as well too. So, but I think it could have been done anywhere in Africa. I think the most reason is that Ghanaians took the initiative to own it. You got people like Kojo, who was one of the pioneers of creating this situation. And he's in America. Family's German. He's Ghanaian though, like one of the leading diasporas. And when you got people like that take initiative, and you have other Ghanaians taking initiative, ideas are great, but if you don't execute on it, because when it was announced, anybody could have took it and ran with it. Anybody could have owned that. Think about it. We have Godé Island in Senegal. It's the first slave ship from Senegal coming to Ghana. So most likely the second one probably will be, but the difference in Senegal is that we speak Wolof, we speak French, and not every American speaks French. It's harder to kind of communicate when you get there. It's not enough translators for everybody. But Ghana is a lot easier. It's a lot simpler. But more than anything, Ghana took the charge and owned it. And I want to thank Kojo, for definitely, Boris Kojo. He's amazing. Like, he really took charge, and I would definitely want to give him the credit for moving forward.
And that's why I'm here from the Essence trip with Boris and Nicole.
You know what I'm saying?
And they literally is the reason I'm here is because Boris and Nicole spread, and they've been coming for years.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. But no, they've been coming for years, and Nicole has gotten so many different influencers and celebrities in America to come, and this year we all came because of the year of return. So you're absolutely right, Boris and Nicole, for sure.
Definitely.
All right, thank you guys so much. I'd like to acknowledge the presence of...
Actually, those are 2 albums out of a 4-package album that's going to be dropping this year. Actually, 2020 we dropped the second album, which is the hip-hop album and then the reggae album. The first 2 albums was the Latin album and the Afrobeat album. The Latin album was influenced because when I was in Jersey, I was pretty much raised by Puerto Ricans. Coming up from New Jersey, I was pretty much the only African in the whole Puerto Rican clique. They kind of received me as one of their own. And it was weird because when coming into the U.S. as an African, you really don't get too much love from the outside. And African Americans didn't understand me well enough to kind of bring me in much, but the Puerto Ricans was kind of feeling probably the same thing I was feeling, as immigrants, being far from home and not really understanding the culture, kind of fitting in as well. So it was like one of the perfect fits. And through it, I got a lot of my Spanish, you can say, upbringing through them. So it was only right. Ever since Locked Up, I've been doing Spanish remixes for every one of my songs, and a lot of people never knew that. So, and I realized that the genres were always segregated, because if you listen to hip hop, at the time you didn't really listen to Spanish, or if you listen to Spanish, you didn't really listen to Afrobeat, or if you listen to Afrobeat, you didn't really listen to country, or whatever. Whatever genre you listen to was what you listened to. And wanting to drop 5 albums back at the stadium was even back in 2012 when I wanted to do it. It was just way ahead of its time, the concept. But then we fast forward 7, 8 years later, now we have streaming, which allows you to create a playlist. And every genre now has its own playlist. So it was the perfect time to be able to drop those, you can say, multiple albums. Because now, they won't really cross paths with each other and interrupt each other's marketing and promoting, because every genre you can create your own playlist within that genre. So I was able to drop a Latin album called El Negrito, which is an all Spanish album in reggaeton. So if you haven't never heard Akon in a reggaeton setting, You might want to get the album. Just out of curiosity, I think you should pick it up. Trust me, you're gonna love it. And then the next album is the Akon, which is my Afrobeat album we just dropped last month. You know, which I'm really super excited about. It's more been accepted more from the pop community, the white community. So I said I wanted to be able to make my first launch of this album when I go to Ghana for the Year of No Return. You know, I think it was the perfect time for me to announce it because at the time I wanted to make sure that the fourth quarter was owned by African artists. I didn't want to interrupt the great thing that's going on with African artists. You know, because sometimes people don't consider me African in the music business, which is natural. You know, I came up in the U.S., I was raised there. You know, so my music sometimes wasn't, especially in the beginning, wasn't quite African. You know, it was really European and American. I just spoke about African, you know, concepts and ideas and living, but over Americanized beats, you know what I'm saying? So I wasn't really considered an African artist. You know, even now when they do awards and nominations, they never announce me as an African artist. I'm always in the pop side of MTV Awards, you know, Grammys and things like that. But sometimes it'd be nice to receive an African award. So I said I got to put out an Afrobeat album. Just got to do it. It's a must. So that's why we created Akon, and I think we're gonna probably preview a couple records from it today, but just so you guys can get an idea where it's at. But it's no different from what you've been hearing because we've been a part of creating all that the whole time. We've just been in the, you know, behind the scenes doing it.
Wonderful.
A lot of the instruments are synthesized instruments. See, when we were coming up, a lot of the interests, like you gotta understand, like what you're listening to today is really Afro pop. It's not really Afrobeat. But it's the best name, you can say title, so it can relate to something. And Afrobeat is the closest to relation to make international markets understand what it is. Because what you're listening to today was more created by the younger generation, influenced by Afrobeat. What you're talking about, you're right, Afrobeat was traditional. Yeah. All traditional instruments, horns, drums, it's like raw. Today is more synthesized because it's more modern. And as the time grows, as generations move forward, as we get into 2020, 2030, 2040, unfortunately, it's sad to say, but traditional instruments won't exist in a minute. So we have to incorporate our tribal rhythms into the newer technology. Because even a lot of stuff that you're hearing is keyboard, which you wouldn't really know because the rhythm hits you a certain kind of way. The drums even now play on the keyboard. The horns are played on the keyboard. Every instrument now, you can play it on the keyboard. So we almost have to just move with the time. We can't get too stuck in the past as to how things used to be. But we have to create and be influenced by what it used to be as to how we can recreate it for tomorrow. Because we just gotta incorporate our tradition, you know, our rhythm into the newest technologies that's available to us. You know, it's gonna be a very few artists that stick to it, but the audience is going to be super small, you know?
But people say on the international level, because of the heavy influx of the synthesizer production, that's why our music is not so accepted in certain markets. How true is that?
I think it's completely false. I think the fact that these guys started doing more synthesized is why we be so big now. Because you got to think, Africa is like one of the fewest continents that slowly developed. While everybody was developing into the future, we've been stuck right here. So, including our music has been right here. So, at the time of Fela and Afrobeat, the music was right here. But then when you come with the younger generation, that translated what Fela was doing into today's Afro pop, you notice how big it got. Because now, the international market can relate to the sound, they can relate to the rhythm, they can relate to the melodies because of the fact that it's being packaged to them differently. So, as the sound changes, as the future change, Africa's, we have to change with it.